Where's the pickleball?
Listen, I've never played pickleball in my life, but I'm in.
What I love about pickleball is all the people complaining it's too loud.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Kind of shocked by that.
Yeah.
Recording in progress.
Good evening, everyone. The time is 7 p.m., and I will now call this budget workshop of the Board of Selectmen to order. So tonight is our budget deliberations, and before we get started, I do want to go on record and state that the Board of Selectmen did receive a number of correspondence from residents in town and parents supporting the Board of Education budget. There's too many to read, but it's a significant number. That was the only correspondence that we received regarding the budget that I'm aware of at this time. But there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 15 total. Yeah. Okay, so we have about
as of a little while ago, yeah.
So I want to thank all of those individuals that took the time to write in their letters to the Board of Selectmen. We do read each one of them on our own, and I know this board, if it came just to me, I would share it with the full Board of Selectmen, but I want to thank those individuals that took the time to write that. So with that, we're going to move on to the budget deliberation portion this evening. I do have some changes to start with, some modifications, and then we'll open it up to the board for wherever they'd like to go with the budget this evening. But if you could turn to the revenue pages first, that would be pages 5, 6, and 7. I have a couple minor changes. On page 6, which is object 00302. This is pilot telecommunications. We have currently budgeted estimated revenue of $45,000. You may recall Finance Director Tom Robinson mentioned that this is looking like it's going to come in lower in the next fiscal year, so I'd like to adjust this down by $23,000 to a new budgeted or estimated revenue of $22,000. So object 00302 will go from $45,000 to $22,000. And so we are able to increase property taxes, interest, and liens. So 0012, these collections are projected to come in a little higher. So we can go from $150,000 to $155,000 on that. And then structural permits look like they're going to be coming in better than originally anticipated as well. And that number is 00328. So structural permits can go from $331,000 to $349,000. So an increase of $18,000 there. And so that all nets out, but I wanted to make those changes to better reflect our estimated revenue for the next fiscal year. I also have a couple additional changes. If you can turn to page 136. Uh, 00214, State of Connecticut grants. So it is currently $130,174. We actually need to increase this by $153, so the new number will be $130,327 on that line. And then if you'll turn to page 140. Zero 8141000899090 Highway Division Vehicle Maintenance Sidewalk Repair Construction Grant. where is that on here? Right here. You'll see it. It's $50,174. This is LoCIP money. This is grant funded by the state. We need to adjust this up as well by the $153 to a total of $50,327. And those are the changes I have. Tom, did I miss anything? Good. All right. So with that, this is my budget as presented. I'll open it up to the board for any discussions. I do know there's some administrators here in the audience that would like to speak tonight. So I know our fire marshal is here who'd like to speak. I believe our fire chief is here as well, if you'd like to speak. And any administrator, if you'd like to, or if anyone has any questions for any administrator, by all means, they're invited up to speak to the board. So where do you guys want to go?
Hey, Ryan, I'll start, I guess. I'd like to thank you and Tom Robinson for allowing the general government budget to be flat this year at a 0 mill rate increase, which is awesome. Thank you very much. And I'd like to go right to capital improvement plan and invite Ryan O'Halpin up here if you don't mind.
Gotta be 140,
So page 135?
Page 135, capital improvement. My question to you is for the highway department, replaced pickup truck, $92,000. I was I did my due diligence and asked around that is probably be able to push off a year, and I was wondering if we can add other equipment in its place. I was told the town crew is in need of a dump body and a mulcher for the excavator. Do you have prices on that? Would that be able to match up as a clean slate?
So, I do have solid pricing on that.
Okay.
I have a quote from Truck Builders, who built 5 trucks prior to this, so this would be our 6th body from them, of $68,315. That is including a new hydraulic tarp. We could reuse the existing tarp on there that's in decent condition, which saves $6,000, bringing it down to $62,315. And then the mulching head, I have a quote from Tyler Equipment, tight budget of $30,500, which includes a shield for the windshield, since the mulching head spits out wood in any direction. They highly recommend a shield for the operator to block any debris that could go flying at not only to save the windshield, but for safety of the operator. And then there is some modifications that would have to happen to the hydraulic hoses. That's also in this budget for the mulching head attachment. Add those together, it's $92,815, yeah, which is tight numbers. So both of these prices are not state contract pricing. In order to move this forward, this would either need to go out to bid, and we know prices change when it goes out to bid, or I would need to request a bid waiver to hit these numbers. We did look around for the mulching head to several places, and this seems to be the best option. We could mulch up to an 8-inch trunk on a tree with this mulching head. Some are out there that are less money, but you can only do a 4 or 6-inch trunk, and it bogs down when you end up trying to grind it down. Mike Lestrina, our highway supervisor, went out to East Hampton and demoed the one that they had, and it didn't seem to have enough power to be worth the money. But this one, you did go out and see a demo of this one in Ledyard, and it seemed to be really, really worth it.
Thank you. I'm making a recommendation to the board that I would like to swap out the pickup truck for those two items. If you guys have any other suggestions.
Is there anything else that you'd rather see swapped? Or are these two things that you'd like to?
Yeah, so these, along with the reason the highway supervisor pickup truck is not a top priority this year is the sewer plant had just gotten a new pickup truck, so we do have an extra 350 that's in decent shape from down there. So if either the highway supervisor or the crew leader truck goes down, we do have a backup for the time being.
What
So-
about the hammer, Ryan?
There's another attachment that we wanted to get for one of our excavators, a hoe ram attachment that could, if we go to do water lines or drainage work on either High Street, any of the roads where we have shallow rock, it would be good to have a hoe ram on hand. We have a quote from, I don't know, it's probably 6 or 8 months old for $13,000 on that attachment. So that quote's not that solid, but that would be another thing that's on the list for attachments. I believe the mulching head can get us a lot of work done, clearing the sides of the roads, clearing said ponds, clearing out water and sewer lines through town that just have overgrown. You could just mulch everything up, leave it right in place. We don't have to haul anything out. We don't have to worry about getting dump trucks in the woods. There's a lot that can get done that'll benefit a lot of the town.
So the
With the
mulcher would be a higher value in that, view then, in that?
The mulcher head, yeah.
Okay.
This piece of equipment would help with maybe the future expansion of Airline Trail, the riverfront
Yeah.
access, the
Yeah.
reservoir.
Correct, the mulching head could get used down, I know we're looking at the boat launch down there on Airline Ave. They could clear out most of the trees in the woods, anything smaller. Obviously, the large trees, we're still gonna have to have a tree company come in. Any projects like that, yeah, Airline Trail expansion, if the town were to be able to help, we could use that mulching head in certain areas.
How sure are you on the prices to get on both of those?
So these, like I said, these prices are tight right now, so I may need to ask for a bid waiver in order to ensure that these prices can hold. If it goes out to bid, what we've seen in the past is, it goes up a little bit. Where we looked around, I think these prices are solid. I think they're good prices for what this is, but yes, there's no fluff built into those numbers.
Because I had on the dump body that we talked about 75,000. So I
So
know
that would be with the new tarp and then adding 6,000 for
contingency.
unknown,
Yeah.
with it going out to bid. If that number's gonna come in as tight as what we have right now.
Now, let me just ask the board, do we want to perhaps leave the dump body in for now and revisit the mulching head, depending on how things go? I mean, with other conversations, or do you want to do both now? But if we do both now at the $92,815, we would have to find $815 elsewhere, because, as Mike had pointed out, I think a goal that I'd like to see for the board to keep the general government side at a 0% mill increase. So if we can keep that flat, I'd like to see that. So I don't care how we move money around, but if we could just keep that flat, I'd be in favor of that.
Well, I know you don't want me to touch your sidewalks, but how about townwide computers? Can we take $815 out of there?
I think we could probably do that. Do you want to do that? Is there consensus on that?
Fine.
What? Tom? That's the. Tom, do you want to get up and just talk just to the board so that's on record, please?
Just concerned that that number, you know, there's no cushion in the number at all to absorb any potential increase. Often in the new fiscal year, there is an increase in dollar value. If they do see an issue with when they're doing the work and there is an overage or there is a need, if the number is the exact number, in the capital, they have to come back and do special town meetings to get additional monies. And at that point, then you're not getting the work accomplished for the goal. So you just want to make sure that the number that you have has enough room within the number to withstand the test of the time that it takes to get the item acquired. Because you can't purchase anything until July after the, you know, hopefully with the budget being approved. So I just want to make sure that, you know, everyone's aware of that, you know, you can put it right to the dollar, but if it's over, then you can't make the purchase. So you need to have that, you know, an ability to have an amount that, you know, one could call it a contingency of any unexpected that you'd have within reason.
What would you recommend, 5%, 15% on each item?
What do we say? And we talked a little bit earlier, what were we thinking there?
Yeah, it was 5%.
It was like, you know, I mean, if you're, what were the two numbers again?
68.
15.
Yeah, I think you were, well, I think you were.
There was 62.
62, 315, and 30,000.
68, 315,
Okay.
62 without the tarp.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier, we were talking about the tarp, right? Wasn't it 70?
Yeah,
We were at 72.
yeah,
So we're at 72 with 5% contingency with the TARP,
yeah,
so.
30, I think it would be.
yeah, which would have left us only a 20,000 balance.
That's where I was getting my suggestion, maybe for now, I think it's a good idea, we should keep the dump body in as a replacement and revisit the mulching head, perhaps, you know, if funds allow, maybe we can find the funds elsewhere to make up the difference. Would you recommend that we keep the tarp, or would you recommend that to use the old tarp, or to get a new tarp?
I would say, if we're not gonna fund both, that we keep the tarp.
Well, the other option that I was gonna suggest too is we might wanna look at doing the dump body, use the existing tarp if that was in good shape and that's viable. And then you could still have some money in there so that if it works out where the numbers align and we can do both, they can get the mulcher. But if not, they could get the other item, the ram attachment, is significantly less money. And there would be enough money between those items we're talking about for the body and the ram attachment, right?
Correct.
So that's another option that maybe gets you two pieces of equipment that'll be valuable, and it gives you the option, if the numbers come in right, you can get sort of your option one, but if they don't, your option two. You're still moving forward.
Yeah, I
Right.
think,
Real quick, between the mulcher and the ram, what do you think is gonna be used more?
we plan on doing a water line project over on Dogwood. I would say we're gonna need a hoe ram for that project. There's some drainage upgrades that we could do, on the other side of High Street, going down towards William Street. We would need a hoe ram for those. The mulching head, we would probably use more often, but the hoe ram will be needed from time to time. There's also sections of rock on the sides of certain roads, especially out in the country, that could use, you know, to be hit back, so it's not right on the edge of road, imposing any hazard.
What's the cost rent them, you know, a lot of
Yeah, it
companies
is.
do that if you were to align some of the projects.
Since the companies know they get beat up pretty bad, it is high. It's at least a couple thousand a week.
What would be if you owned one and we bought one for 13,000? How long would it last you?
As long as we took care of it and we kept up on the grease and everything, it could last for, at O&G, when I worked there, we had hoe rams that were 20, 30 years old, still in working order. But you gotta keep up with it, and the guys have to realize when they need to stop and grease it and fix it.
Well, they do a good job maintaining the other equipment in town, so I have
Yeah.
complete confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sean, my thinking is simply that, you know, if the numbers align and they can get the mulcher, and if that's a higher value, then great. But if the numbers don't, especially with the goal, I think that the gen ed budget, we're at 0 mil, but I still think it's about 3.8% in terms of expenditures. So I think our goal, right, we're fortunate that we're benefiting from the grand list growing and from a reduction in our bond costs, right? So we're able to do some things. But I do think we want to hold the expenditure line.
Agreed.
We could go to just the attachment line item. Get rid of
So I think we're at 72,000 on the dump body, correct, Ryan? With the 5%, we'll call it contingency.
that. Yeah,
So that leaves 30,000.
20.
Was that?
20,000.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, 20,000, correct. 20,000. So what was that?
It'd be 13 plus the 5%, so another, 650. 600, so 13,650.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll call it 14. Call it.
If we did put the 20,000 in attachments, we could first have the dump body work done, see where that shakes out, and then ask for a transfer of any remaining funds to go into the attachments possibly, in August, and possibly still get the mulching head with whatever balance is left at the end of that, but that's just an idea.
What do you guys want to do?
So it sounds like
Yeah.
allocate for the dump body
Yeah. Without the canvas.
without the canvas.
Yeah.
And then the other monies would be going towards the hammer attachment. But if you find out that you can get the mulcher still within that pocket, get the mulcher instead.
Yeah.
But fallback will be the hammer. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same line item for either the hoe ram or the mulching head.
So then if we're doing without the tarp, right, then it's the 62,315 times 1.05, so I got
Yeah.
65.5, we'll call it? Is that what-
65, yeah.
So 65.5 for the dump body.
Yeah. If we end up buying it that way.
And then the hoe ram was, what,
Well, it would be,
14?
we'd probably be talking 66, and we said 14.
Yeah, 14.
So you'd be looking right around 80,000 for the two.
All right. Yep. So 79,500, does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah, but don't we want to allocate the 92 as the buffer?
Yeah, you want
Like,
to do that?
just 92 for the two attachments.
Okay.
So that if it does come in under, we can get the mulcher instead.
Exactly, yeah.
We don't want to go down to 80, we still want to keep the 92 there.
Okay.
Yeah. It's good for us to keep this in mind, though, especially as we go through the
72.
rest of the line items.
All I'm saying is we may be coming back to it.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, I
all.
mean, I'm not opposed to that if it preserves the option, because that was
Yep.
the goal.
So we are saying 72 on the dump body and 20 for the attachments.
Oh.
Correct?
No, we were saying 65.5 on the dump body because we weren't including the tarp, but the 72 includes the tarp.
Yeah,
So
and
you
I
want the
think,
tarp.
I think when we order it, we confirm that the tarp is in good shape. If I end up not ordering the tarp, then we come in under and leave a balance on that line item that I
Yeah,
can
Okay.
yeah.
come back.
So
Okay.
72 and 14 then?
Yeah.
Is what we'll.
72 and 20, I thought, right, to
All
equal
right,
the
so you want
92.
Yeah, 72 and 20 is 92.
Well, that, yeah,
Yeah.
all right. We might be back, though.
Right.
Yeah,
We'll see what the rest of the
okay.
Ryan,
brings us.
we done with that one?
Yeah.
While you're up there, Ryan, can you
Yeah.
just give me a little background on the 165 for the ride-on mower replacement? Now, did we replace a mower a few years ago, or is this still the same one that you've been piecing together?
This one is from 2014. This is the big ride-on mower, 12-foot deck that does all the fields.
The Groundsmaster?
We had come last year, and I think that ended up being our number 2 to the trackless mower that ended up getting funded last year.
Okay.
So it is a different mower than the one that was in the budget
Is
last
that
year.
165 tight?
Yes. But it's a good number. Turf products they'll fall in that.
Ryan, I have a question for you about the same mower. Is it worth the town looking into subcontracting our mowing, like most towns around us are doing now? I know East Hampton just got their bid in yesterday to see what it would cost, if it was cost efficient, to sub that out and, not have so much equipment.
Yeah, I mean, there's no harm in looking into anything like that. The guys do a lot more than mowing with the field work, the work to the courts, the striping work. So a lot of these landscaping companies are strictly mowing and weed whacking. So I caution us saying it, we're getting the same thing at the end of the day
No,
with
I'm
some
just
of these
looking about
companies, but.
Doing the mowing and freeing them up for other work. Because we were told that last year when we hired an additional grounds guy was, we have much more hands-on labor than just machine work, and that's why they wanted the extra guy. And it'd be nice to see what the number is. It might be realistic, or it might be something that, is astronomical that we're not thinking of.
Yeah, it's worth looking into, which I can check around, I could call around to other towns, see how they proposed that and how they handled it.
'Cause I know East Hampton broke theirs up into 3 bids. There was town properties like town hall, police station, firehouses. All the schools was another bid, and then they have 5 cemeteries, that's another bid. So.
Yeah, so parks and buildings together, and then schools. Do we have any cemetery? I don't think we do.
No,
Yeah.
they're all private.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
How easy would it be to calculate how much we spend just on the fields with the equipment we have?
It's the labor
Right.
and the equipment, fuel. It's basically what's in the budget plus what we funded on capital the last 10, 15, 20 years.
Right.
Add all that up, and
Right.
that would be our overall costs that we could look into, comparing that
Right.
to whatever we receive. But yeah, if the board feels it's worth looking into, I can at least get the numbers.
I think it's worth it.
I think it's worth it.
Yeah?
I'd like to just know what the price is, and then we can either move forward with it or just scrap it, but we know what the number is.
Yeah, okay,
But we still need the mower
Yeah.
today, though. Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Well, Ryan's here. Any other questions for Ryan? All right,
I think I'm
guess
good.
you're off the hook.
I have one question more. You had in your original, didn't make it to the cut, the fire alarms. How, important is that to get funded this year?
So, fire company number 2, and fire company number 2 doesn't have any heat detectors in the bays. There's heat detectors in the attic, but by the time the heat gets up there, that fire's gonna be blazing pretty good. So that's what that was. It was to add heat detectors in the bays to catch the alarm sooner. That was a $10,000 upgrade. And then I think I had another $5,000 for our transfer station that's housing the new roll-off truck. That fire alarm also is not in working order. There's a security alarm out there that works good, but the fire alarm is not functional right now. So, fire company number 2, it does have a system. It is functioning. There are issues with the communication lines. Pretty often, we get alarm calls out there, probably 4 or 5 times a year. But it could use an upgrade. I think it's a priority. As you know, we've spent millions on fire trucks recently, so losing anything would be a big hit.
Brian, is this just a purchase that we maintain, or is this a service that we're purchasing?
It's a $10,000 upgrade to the system, and then communication-wise, there's a service that comes along with that, and then there's annual testing of the system that would come with it. So whoever we would end up installing a system from, would there be residual?
Take that over.
But that could be handled just like it is now. There's already a service contract at fire company number 2 with Johnson Controls and Tyco, so it would just be that continuation.
Brian, you know, I know we went through this before with Public Works, and you installed a system there, which was very important. Is there any other buildings that house equipment that we don't have any type of fire detection in that we possibly should think about in the future?
Yeah, the only one that comes to mind is the transfer station, and then obviously company number 2. I think that's it right now, at least on the top of my head. There's always, chance that I'm missing something, but.
That's correct.
Just if I can interject there, there was conversations years ago about dog pound.
Ray, sorry.
Yeah, going back, I don't know, probably say 5-6 years ago, we actually, when we did we moved the town hall PD over to a new monitoring service. At that time, we were still looking at the dog pound, and at that time, we did have a agreement with Middletown to house their animals here, obviously. So that was a priority, the transfer station. And then also, I don't believe if the sewer plant is actually monitored. There's devices there, but I don't think they're monitored. So those would be the things that obviously we could look at. I think at the time, Tom was even working with myself and Dave Kuzminski looking at those upgrades. And then by the time we really got around to it, we weren't obviously, we didn't have the Middletown agreement anymore. So we just have our own dogs down there. So I think it was more of a liability thing we were looking at, but I still think it's probably, worth taking a look at. Obviously, not right now, but at least try to get some costs going to see if that's something we can do in the future. I mean, obviously, it's our residents' dogs or whatever that end up down there, so that could be an issue if it's Middletown or whoever, but something we can consider. That wouldn't be a big project similar to the transfer station.
Oh, Ray, you said the sewer plant?
Yeah, it has a system, but I don't believe it's monitored.
I would think that would be another item to look into for cost too.
There's not a lot of combustibility issues there, other than obviously in some of their storage places where they have chemicals and stuff, but
Right.
we haven't had any issues. But we could, obviously if we're gonna bring some people in to look at that stuff, it'd be something I would recommend and see what we're looking at from a cost standpoint.
Yeah.
If the equipment's there, it's real about the monitor now, and that's usually pretty simple now today because we're going all wireless.
Right.
And that's what we would be doing. The Company 2 upgrade would include a wireless monitoring service, so we don't have those call-outs with line trouble and stuff like that. So those are a lot more reliable than the old phone lines. So,
That would make sense. I mean, you're
Yeah.
right. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not necessarily burnables, but when you have chlorine and
Right.
chemicals, anything's possible, and everything that we purchase at a cost is something we don't want to lose.
Well, not only that, it's the same thing we look at the fire equipment. If they have something that goes down at the sewer plant, you know, obviously, I think early indications would be better than late notice, you know,
Absolutely.
and finding out that you can't process your stuff. So, but, yeah, so, yeah, you covered it pretty good, yeah. So hopefully, you know, if there's other ways, I could ask that we try to look at that from a funded standpoint. I know we have other options. I would like to see, I think we've been doing a good job the last couple of years getting those other things done. The town garage was huge, and thank you guys for doing that. I think that's a good investment, and then, you know, if we can look at, you know, Station 2 somehow, with some other alternative funded, you know, through, you know, communications account, whatever, but, I think with the new truck coming next year, you know, it'd be nice to have some protection there. And, you know, like anything else, it's 3 years to get a fire truck now, and if something were to go and we lose a firehouse, it's gonna be a while. Thank God East Hampton's, you know, protecting us now with that piece out there, so. Another different, situation, but so, yeah, if we can find another way to do, that'd be great.
Thank you. So
Thank you.
I think we'll look at alternative funding options for this, but it is important, and thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
Well,
I think-
that's-
Are we all, what's that?
Well, I was gonna say, you talk about, we've talked about several different options, but if you look at the 62.3 for the dump without the canvas, if we actually said we were more comfortable with the RAM, right, given another priority being added in this fire, and then the 15 for the fire, that comes out to 87.3, and then when you add the 5%, you're at 91,680. So that would allow us to do these things. The difference here is you wouldn't really have the option at that point to do the mulcher this year. You would end up kind of be saying, okay, we're gonna do the RAM, but also from a dollar standpoint, we could do the fire. So I don't know if that sort of bundle of priorities outweighs the mulcher in your mind.
Yeah, everything's a priority, so.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and when you look at it from that, yeah.
You did it now, Jim.
Tom, I know they may be different buckets.
Fire alarm, money is in place, just need to put the bid together.
Yep.
And get it done on the Fire Company 2 situation.
Yep.
First time I've heard about the resource recovery, with the other ones in place, we just gotta, it's.
Oh, is there already, Tom, is there already money for that?
For company 2.
For company two? Oh, okay. I was thought it was an ask.
Yeah, good.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else for Ryan? I think we're good.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
Thanks,
all right,
Ryan.
thanks, guys.
Ray, do you want to come, since you're right here, and since. Thank you, Ryan.
What
Thank you
page?
guys for having me tonight. I just wanted to just go over some stuff quickly. I did meet with Ryan earlier in the month just to go over the status of my actual budget from a payroll standpoint. And I did brief Ryan where we are to date with that. And currently, right now, if we continue on the trend that we do have, which is we've been averaging $4,500 a month to $5,000. A lot of that's largely due to the inspections that we've been having to conduct down at Brainerd Place. So I've been fire marshal since '09, and it was pretty easy back then to try to put together a budget. And you know, obviously we would usually have no problems staying within budget because of we didn't have as much development going on as we do today, and obviously even looking forward. But so with that said, this year is probably going to see somewhat of a deficit that would probably be somewhere around $5,000 right now, and that's I'm currently holding some other line items as is to try to cover some of that excessive cost with the payroll. And like I said, so that was about $4,500 is what I estimated to get me there where I would need to be. So going into next year, I put in for 3,800, and normally, like I said, I don't put money in and intend to use it all, because in the past four budgets, or I should say 3 years, you know, we returned over $24,000 back in unused payroll. That was some personnel. We were short personnel for a couple of years. COVID, we couldn't inspect a lot of stuff. So with that said, at least, you know, we're not here just using the money if it's there. Like I said, we haven't been this busy since I've been in office. With that said, you know, the projects of Verdon, Brainerd Place, Dollar General was a quick 30-day build. That was a lot of time. We're having difficulties with continued follow-ups with multifamily and commercial inspections. We still have our annual certificate inspections, which are group homes and stuff like that, which keep us, you know, obviously busy with that stuff. And now I come up again, I'm sitting on this is my third review for a special permit down at Brainerd Place, which is time consuming because we have to look back at each plan review to see what's changed and what we've, you know, suggestions or comments that we've made, are they included and that kind of thing. So, so with that said, you know, I did talk to Ryan about where we stood right now, and like I said, I mean, it's getting nicer. I try to maybe get a little more golf in than work on these cold days, but anyways, with that, I'm concerned about this year going into next budget. And of course, so what you guys had received, I had put a request in for
51? Oh, 55,650.
Yeah, I had 50, I proposed 52.3, and I was allocated the 51,000. So with that said, that's a little more money, obviously, and obviously a little's better than nothing, but I'm just worried about what we're seeing this year going into next budget. So, you know, with that said, obviously, we have the quarry project that's gonna be starting, obviously, what I'm being told this year. And, you know, I've been at development meetings that you think that something's gonna come and it doesn't. Well, these have all been coming. So, you know, with that said, it's hard. I wish I had a crystal ball to figure out what we're gonna have. But, you know, with that said, it's just, we've been spending a lot of time with plan review, inspections, and that kind of thing. So, and obviously from what you guys are seeing as well as me, it's not slowing down. So.
We're trying to keep you busy, Rick.
Yeah, right, thank you. Yeah, I did retire, but I didn't want to work full-time. But, so just to give you guys an idea, I'm averaging about 20 to 24 hours a week, and I really can't go over. I don't have, because if I hit 20 hours, it's full-time, you know, that kind of thing. So, and I don't want to work full-time. But Andy himself is working anywhere between 12 to 16, and we have another guy that comes in about 8 to 10 hours a week, Mike. So, and that's just to keep us going. And like I said, we're keeping it going. Unfortunately, like I said, it just, I think we're gonna be short on the payroll side. So, any considerations towards, you know, that obviously would be great, and, you know, if not, we'll have to come back. And wouldn't be the first time we've had to come back. We've done that before, but, just wanted to express that.
Ray,
you
can I
know.
ask a question?
Sure.
So 4,500 a month times 12, we're looking at 54. So would that get the job done?
I think it'd be close, yeah, I had 54.5, yeah, 55, so that's kind of, you know, what I was thinking, projecting, you know. Like I said, when it gets a little nicer, we're not working as much, that kind of thing, people are on vacations or whatever, so the winter's the winter usually, so obviously we're pretty full steam ahead, but, so I think it's gonna get, the payroll should drop down a little with it, you know, become a little nicer out, so, but, so, all right, any
Thank you.
questions? Yeah.
Any questions for Ray?
Thank you, guys,
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thanks, Ray.
Thoughts? Again, we can go up, we just gotta find it somewhere else, that's all.
Go up, and then if we don't, and he comes into a deficit, then we have to go and find the money elsewhere.
You wanna go to 54 or 54.5? I mean, it's up to you guys.
Where's the money coming?
Yeah.
I don't know, I would say we would have to look for it after, you know.
My preference would be to just see how things flow and have him come back to us if he needs it. You know, I don't know, because we have to find it somewhere else. And I don't know how, that's gonna be difficult.
It's up to you guys.
I guess let's table it now. Is there any other items we got to talk about? And then we'll,
All right, we'll table it and we'll
Come back. So possibly 4 more.
Did anybody else have anything, any pages to turn to? Any administrators who are here? I do want to point out, our library director, Jen Billingsley, is online via Zoom, so if anyone has any library questions, Jen is with us. Also, our senior center director, Sarah, I know, well, I'm just saying, Sarah was here. She unfortunately had an appointment she had to leave for, but myself or Tom can answer any senior center related questions if anyone has them.
The only other question I have is for the social services page 93.
I mean, Tom, do you want to come up for this? Because I think you might have some better answers than I do on this.
Tom, what's the difference between the emergency shelter and the connection emergency shelter?
The difference between that is the emergency shelter is more or less a funds that the first selectman controls. That is, within reason with discussions with, myself, that can help possibly house people for a night or so in a hotel. If there's bad weather coming, and there's an immediate risk to the person, and maybe they can't get into a shelter. The 2,200 is a contribution to the actual shelter. It's called the Connection Shelter.
Okay.
So we're actually donating to this shelter that provides services to our residents.
Okay.
So there's times when the emergency shelter funds have been utilized often, and other years, they're not needed. But it's monies there that, if that situation arises and someone comes to Ryan and is in desperate need, we've worked with multiple hotels in the area in the past, and have periodically had to put various people up, and it's only for a limited amount of time for each person.
It doesn't happen often, but especially when there have been inclement weather patterns and there's a polar vortex or something and something comes up, it is definitely something that's needed, I will say.
My other questions were, not to take the money away, but move it to a different area. For the community health center is 500 and Rushford Center is 500. I wanted to know about moving that to the Portland Fair and to the veterans activities. Because I know Rushford Center is owned by Hartford Hospital. I don't think our $500 really makes a difference to them.
Again, these are areas that the first selectman is responsible for, and these are items that we've donated to. They've somewhat relied upon and requested these funds. So I think these are areas that, that there's been that continual support. I don't really have much else on that.
Tom, I have an unrelated question that, with regards to property value for motor vehicle tax, have you calculated the impact of the Brainerd Place on what that tax would be?
No.
For next year? You haven't touched that at all?
No.
Right. Okay.
because it's the grand list of October 1 of
So it
the
would be,
previous
okay.
year.
So, just wanna make sure. Thank you.
I'm not sure who this question would go to, but I flagged it as I'm going through here. We talked earlier about our animal control department, the dog pound. And I know in years past, other towns have shared with us and help offset the cost. It's $105,000 a year right now to maintain it, and I believe from the conversation we had, we said it's probably gonna be even more because we lost our rental on that. Has anybody investigated what it would cost us to be on the other end of that stick? And just ask a local pound to leverage them to support us so would it save us a lot of money?
Potentially. I have had some conversations. I recently met with the town manager in Glastonbury. They are building their own facility in Glastonbury right now, and they already partner with Marlboro. As you mentioned, and Tom mentioned, the town of Portland has had an agreement with the town of Middletown, the city of Middletown, who then since have built their own dog pound. Now, currently, we have a pretty good deal with our current situation. That may be running its course though, because one item that I haven't talked about yet was, there is a new state statutes regarding dog pounds, and I don't believe there's a grandfather clause in that. So we may be forced to actually look elsewhere for services, because it may be cost prohibitive to bring our current facility up to code. So this is a conversation that I don't think it's part of this budget, but it's something that we will be talking about at some point.
Much like we talked earlier, I mean, I realize it's not something we can get rid of now, but I think it begs the question to talk further about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we do have some options. When I talked with Glastonbury, the location of their facility is not necessarily close to our border that we share with them. And so we may end up looking more at Middletown potentially for, but there's trade-offs with that as well. You have to keep in mind, we also have a full-time employee that's currently with us as an animal control officer. So, any changes that we make to that would impact, an employee as well.
Yep.
So just something that you think about. We didn't mean to cut you off, Bobby. Did you want to?
Listen, you, Greg.
Those are the two things I would like to see moved, because I think it could be better used and it would be kept for two activities that are here in town, for the veterans and for the fair.
Is anybody opposed to that? No.
No?
Just small. I just have one question before I say yes or no. That donation, which I assume is a donation to Brushwood Center, is that something that we give if for an emergency, we have to have someone from town, a resident, go in there before they get admitted to other channels? Or is that just a straight out donation?
As far as I know, it's a donation. Tom, correct me if I'm wrong. Is there any? All right, it's coming back.
I believe that all the areas that are on, that are listed on that page are all entities within the surrounding area that provide our residents with various services. And some of these items are like it seems to me like it's almost like a show of appreciation by the town to recognize that these entities provide services to our residents and do good work for our residents. So therefore, there's funds that are, in the social service budget that are provided to those entities.
So with that being said, I don't see an issue with moving that to the two line items.
Okay. The only thing I'll say about that is, I don't know if the Memorial Day Parade, I know a couple of years ago, Sarah had reached out and requested $500 extra. There was no request. I don't know if they need the money this year. I mean, we can do whatever the board wants to do. I just don't know if there's a need on the Veterans Affairs or the Memorial Day. So, if you guys want to move it, though, it's up to you.
I would rather have it there so it's available for them if they need it.
Okay.
Because the fair, I mean, the parade is not getting any cheaper, the fair is not getting any cheaper, nothing is. And it looks like a couple of years ago, the veterans activities used their entire amount.
So, it's the Rushford 86011, and what was the other one?
The Community Health Center, 008.
And you want, and it was the Memorial Day Parade 88005, and also, it was the veterans activities, not, that is what you're suggesting?
Yeah, no, it's the veterans activities and Portland Fair.
Oh, and the point, I was thinking the parade, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay. So veterans activities would go to 4,500.
Yep.
And where's the fair would go to 3,000.
Yes.
Is it- Community Health Center, 86008.
Do we have a good description of what those groups are actually doing for our residents before we cut off?
I do not have that at this time. This is, these social service items are legacy items. We've done this every year for
Yeah.
as long as I recall. So I don't have, the detailed information on that this evening.
Yeah, like, for example, I know we have a good partnership with Community Health for working within our schools and such. I don't know how much, if this applies to that at all. Things of that nature, right? These are organizations that do provide real services. That's the only thing I get a little, it's sort of a minimal amount. That's the only thing I have a little agita about moving it.
I mean, we can find out more information and come back if you want to do that.
Yeah, let's add it to the list to come back to. Like, that's not long enough.
Well, what's the community?
Well, do we want to just we'll just go down the line. Mike, you want to?
I know nothing about any of these programs, so I don't know what we're taking away from and what we're, I don't understand it, so I really don't have an opinion on it, so I'd like to just abstain from this. I don't know what it is.
Okay. Does that? I know. So Bobby, Sean, you guys are okay with moving out of those two line items? I'll go whichever way the board decides, but.
Question for you before we have the community health center, community renewals. What's the community? Is that helping anybody that we definitely know about? Or is this something?
I mean, all of these organizations
I know they do,
help
but-
Portland residents. It's, we're talking about $500. Maybe this
Yeah, we're not-
isn't
Then find somewhere else.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, is any,
I'm not getting involved in this one.
and
I don't want to, these are all social services, I'm sure that our residents leverage, and for $500, I don't want to get into a situation where we jeopardize any of those.
all right.
If this organization is worried about $500 and that jeopardizes how they treat our citizens, then they're not a very good social services organization.
But with a lot of those organizations, that's how they ride. And I just don't, as Mike said, we don't know a lot about this, and I just wouldn't want to do anything to jeopardize the services to our residents.
I tell you what, why don't, for the next budget, the next budget, I'll have a lot more information on these organizations, and we can
Yeah.
decide then, but I think for now, let's stay status quo.
I have a suggestion for all of us. I have a question first for some of the gentlemen and ladies out there. It's specifically on the Route 17 Park. We've been up and running for a while. What kind of impact has the park and maintenance had on the budget? Someone asked me that the other day, and I'm kind of curious. We guesstimated before the park was open, but if you had to guess, they may be listening tonight or not, but that was the question someone wanted to know. What's been the impact? Has it been more or less unknown since we've been there? Then,
So, this would be a direct impact to the grounds maintenance budget for the new park. Obviously, there's fields there that need to be maintained. There's, the splash pad that needs to be maintained. We did need the additional employee. I would say that's the biggest impact that the town has taken, since the new park has gone online. Other than that, everything is still new that's in the park, so nothing's needed to get replaced yet. That would be any of the playground equipment. There was a fence that went up there recently, for safety issues, with kids, on the soccer fields that could potentially kick a ball into the parking lot. So we had that fence put up, but that was using state grant funding. So that was just a safety state grant that Parks and Rec ended up using. So I don't think there's been a huge impact other than the need for the additional employee and the need based on more area to mow. But there will be a bigger impact when all of the splash pad equipment and playground equipment ends up needing replacement in the next 10, 20 years.
perfect, thank you.
All right.
You're welcome. Thank you, Larry. So the second thing is, we're looking at some of the smaller dollar amounts and some of the smaller departments, but Board of Ed is the biggest part of the budget, so I would think that would be worth looking at now, maybe explore and get some feedback on whether that is a
Are
concern.
we done with the general budget? I mean, instead of bouncing back and forth, wouldn't you want to go through where we're at now, and then we'll,
Yes, you
I mean,
finish general and then go to
finish
Board of Ed.
general, then go to Board of Ed?
Okay. You guys.
For that page 93, you're gonna leave it.
We're gonna leave it
status quo.
alone.
You're not gonna give any more specifics?
No,
is that
no,
correct?
no, we are not.
Okay.
Thank you. So, on the general government then, where should we turn? What would you like to look at?
I'm all set on my end, so.
I'm all set.
I flagged questions I have, and quite honestly, most of them are all priority items, so.
Yeah, we already covered the stuff that I had questions on, so.
I know our fire chief is here. Rob, did you want to come up and talk to the board on anything, or?
I got a couple of questions for him,
Okay.
if I'm allowed.
I'll allow it.
How you doing?
Good.
Start with the questions.
I have equipment supplies, 61003. Is that the line item that we would have the new, does that include both, all the medical and the fire, or is medical in a different line?
No, medicals at 35001.
Okay,
Medical
all right, I
exams
see.
and supplies.
Medical, it's under medical exams and supplies.
Yep.
Are we allocating enough, do you think, for our new EpiPens we have to carry? Or your new EpiPens you have to carry? And what was the initial, if you know what the initial buy-in was for that?
Okay, so where we're at for that, let's see. Okay, the budget that I proposed, I was seeking $32,000 under that line item for medical exam and supplies. The reason for that is that particular line item is physicals, EMS supplies, our oxygen that we use on a daily basis, and EpiPen and Narcan. EpiPen was a state mandate that was rolled out to us as the fire department, and we are now mandated to carry that in our department. Just for an example, the initial cost is $275 or so per unit. So that's one-time dosage. Right now, we have the bare minimum that we can have stocked, which is our first-line apparatus, and then our mutual aid apparatus, and one restockable item that's locked in our EMS office. So if we were to use it, we could resupply it. The reason for that, expiration dates and the cost. It is expensive. So we did request additional funding to try and subsidize that. It's kind of along the same lines as Narcan. It's a necessary evil. We don't know if we're going to use a lot of it. We don't know if we're going to use any of it. I will tell you, the first week that it was implemented in the department, we used 2 rounds in 1 week. Can't give you a trend of what's going to happen, but we're just trying to anticipate, the cost of that, and so we did request extra funding there.
What's the shelf life on that, 2 years?
It depends, actually. The one I saw was actually expiring this year, at the end of this year, so.
Because of when we got it from
Yeah,
the
it depends.
supplier.
I think they're normally 1 year, to be honest.
So it is roughly a year, and we do have to, we're mandated to keep that in stock.
And you said it was $295 per
unit, yeah.
Now, is that $290, because when we get them, we have them with the PD and we have an adult.
Correct.
Is that for both of those, or is it $295 for each?
I believe that's each unit is that cost. So
that's roughly $600 for each truck we're
Yeah.
running.
and then if that gets used, it gets automatically resupplied. We have to order another backup just to keep us, up to compliancy there. So the budget as it is, looks like cut $2,500 from that, and we're looking at $29,500 in that current line item.
It is a $2,500 increase.
Which is up from the
Right.
$2,700.
No, I was just.
How much
curious.
how much is the Narcan, Rob? We purchased that.
I
Do you know how much
don't
that is?
have that offhand.
Oh. Yeah,
Yeah.
Courtney, how much is that? We have our Youth and Family Services Director who definitely would know. Thank you, Courtney.
So it depends on demand at any current time. So it's anywhere between 50 and 100 is from what I gather.
Okay. I'm wondering if we might be able to offset some of the Narcan cost with any of the grant monies that have been awarded in any of the opioid settlement cases. Maybe that might be something that we could explore. I don't know. It's a potential offset for that expense.
And if we do the leave-at-home Narcan,
What's that?
the leave-at-home,
Mhm.
does that come out of our budget, or are we being supplied that through, I know initially it was coming from Chatham Health, I think, correct?
Yeah, I think we did receive a donation still on that. I haven't, since January, I haven't had to put any purchase orders through for that. I
Okay.
think we're okay in that department right now to leave behind.
Do you want to talk about the stipends that is that something?
Sure. So what I proposed initially in the budget was something that I've been exploring, which is an additional stipend for my line officers. Right now, they don't get anything extra for the work that they're mandated to do. They're at the same level as a regular firefighter, regular member of our department, I should say. So if you maintain activity, then you would receive your $1,800 stipend. And for the officers that are part of our department, they're required to do a lot more than a regular member. They're mandated to keep our town safe every night of the week. We have what's called duty nights, so all of our officers are mandated to do that. Mandated to do meetings, run the fire stations, keep up the equipment, training, all these extra things that goes above and beyond a regular member. So what I was doing was I was trying to explore avenue of giving them some sort of an incentive for all the extra work that they do. And I was trying to keep that within the current budget without any increase. I was trying to manage that so that I would be able to keep the budget the same and also be able to give them a little bit of incentive that I do believe that they are entitled to.
So I didn't fund that in this budget, but I thought it was important for our chief to talk about it. You know, I don't know if that's something that you want to consider now, or maybe down the road we talk about that, maybe.
What would the cost be to fund that?
Yeah, what was the cost again? on
So
that, Rob?
initially, I had a very basic plan, $1,000 for each captain and $500 for each lieutenant, for a grand total of $7,500 for the year. I did do quite a bit of research, and I wasn't prepared to divulge all this during the budget deliberations, but I did go to our surrounding departments and find out where we stand as far as the stipends for officers and members, and I had some pretty interesting feedback that I'd be more than happy to share with you guys at a later date if you'd like.
I'd like to hear it.
Sure.
Yeah.
The only other thing that I was interested in touching on was the training. Right now, we're actually in the negative in the training line item. My overall budget is still, the global budget is still within reason, and the training line item is just something that we're hitting pretty hard this year. And so I did want to increase that a little bit so that we can allocate these classes that we require our members to go to are not cheap. And we had a few people go through these classes. Just for an example, a firefighter 1 class, so an initial firefighting class, is around $1,300 for one firefighter. A firefighter 2, which would be the next level of advanced firefighter, is around $1,000. And then if we're trying to outfit an EMT through a course, you're almost $1,500 for one person. So we have had a few people who have done some continuing education, as well as some new members getting certified. It's kind of pushed us over a little bit, and that's why I was trying to get a little bit more in the training line item, just to cover those costs of training. Anyone else have any questions? One other thing while I got the podium here. Capital. I just wanted to, for the record, go over the importance of some of the items that I do have listed on the capital. The most important being our communication equipment. And that's the equipment that we speak on through every single call, our radios. They're aged out and reached end of life, and we're looking to upgrade. We've looked 3 times through grants, and they've denied us 3 times through the grant process. So now we've turned to the town to try and receive some funding for that. The grand total of the project was $550,000 to replace the radio communications for the department. That was not funded at all in capital. So my second request was to at least try and get my line officers outfitted with some modern equipment that we can use. Without going into too much detail, these radios that we have now aren't able to communicate with our mutual aid departments. So the other night when we did go to East Hampton for a structure fire, the radios that we currently have in Portland don't work with East Hampton. So as chief officers, we do have a few of the what we call tri-band radios, and those are able to communicate with the town, so we can communicate with ourselves and then in turn communicate with them. It's kind of a roundabout process. But I was looking for around $100,000 to try and get that ball rolling so we can try and get some of our core line officers radios for mutual aid purposes. All in all, I think we're going to have to explore some sort of avenue. Maybe we're going to have to look into other funding, maybe tower account funds, something of that line, in order to get this ball rolling for the communications for the department. But that is something that is of importance. And the other capital items that we did get funded, I do appreciate, and we will use those funds appropriately. We do have SCBA bottle replacements were funded, thermal imaging cameras, and AED replacements. So it's really hard to put a priority on public safety, on what's the most important, because obviously it's all important. But
Where is that AED? Where is that going? Is that in a?
just replacing aged out equipment.
And where, in a?
The fire apparatus.
In a ladder or in an engine, or where is it stored?
I'm not sure which one's running out of date, but yeah, it's in, the various trucks that we have, yeah.
Okay.
They'll just be replacing the ones that are out of date. So we kind of keep the most current ones on the frontline pieces in mutual aid apparatus, so. Thank you for what you did put in towards the budget. Any other questions for me? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So, I believe we're coming to the end of the general government side. Is there any changes that anyone would like to make, propose?
I think I'm good. As long as we're still keeping it,
The only change that I have so far is the dump body and HORAM, right?
That's really an equipment versus dollar change.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I'd love to figure out how to do something with the stipends, I'm just not sure how to do it. Like where to find that.
That's why I didn't do it this year. But
Yeah.
but that's why I asked our chief to talk tonight, because I thought it had merit, that, it was worth discussing. I just, trying to balance the budget, and, I thought, hearing about it, we could try to work off it for next year. That was kind of my thought. But we would just have to figure out where, the 7,500 would come from, that's all.
I'm good with general. You good with general? I'm all set. We're all set.
Yep.
We still even?
We're still even. I believe, Mike, did you want to talk about the Board of Ed?
Yeah.
Are we done with general?
Yeah, we're done with general.
All right, there you go. No, it's gonna take longer. So I guess my question, Dr. Britton, so I've looked at the budget, I've watched the meetings, I've seen the process by which you guys have gone through the items. Really, my only critique is you should probably buy more paper, based on the complaints I hear from people. But seriously, I don't see a lot of places where you can cut, and there's already people complaining about the fact that there's fewer teachers and an increase. And give me your assessment overall on the budget. Where, if you had to pull out money, where would it be, if that even happened? And if you could have extra money for a project that you wish you could fund for next time, what would those two be?
Maybe tennis courts?
Yeah, I think that what you see is that we recognize that the sunsetting of the grant funds, the increase in health insurance, the general wage and step increase, and then the significant increase in the special education service line items, that those kneecapped us, right? I mean, those were significant, right? For us to absorb those reductions and keep everything the same, I would have been here with a 12.7% increase, right? And look, I think we all would know that a 12.7 increase would just be a non-starter, right? I think that would be shocking. So we made, and I think you see, some significant increases in supplies, equipment, and people, right? I mean, we're talking 6.6 FTE certified faculty, 4 paraprofessionals, the custodial position. Those are significant. Those are real, right? And I'm anxious about those. I'll give you a couple of cases that I'm particularly anxious at. We look at about 90 students in kindergarten and first grade as the place where we're comfortable budgeting 5 sections, right? When we get above 90 students, we need that 6th section. We're budgeting for 5 sections of kindergarten and 5 sections of first grade next year. Right now, we have 89 kindergarten students
which is 5 sections. If we have 5 new students come into town over the summer, that would indicate to us that we would need 6 kindergarten sections. So, hey, 5 families, right? I mean, that's what we're really talking about. The same with kindergarten. I was just at Valley View yesterday. We have 67 students enrolled as of now in kindergarten. We're looking at this new start age for kindergarten and anticipating that that's what's depressing that number a little bit. But 67 is about where we were this year. You know, if we get 30 more kindergartners enrolled between now and September 1st, I'm going to need that 6th section of kindergarten. So yeah, I'm aware, right? There are some gambles here in terms of what we've cut down to. So I'm really going to lose sleep about some of these things, and of course, you know, our facilities, they are what they are. They are very much on borrowed time, and we've reduced our facilities and maintenance line items pretty considerably. It's as bare bones as it gets, and the reason it's bare bones is because of those offsetting costs. But again, I just couldn't bring a 10, 11, 12% budget to you and you know, be in that place that I think is reasonable, and understanding that the community is going to come out and vote on this, and you know, we wouldn't enjoy that support. So I'm telling you, I've made the cuts already. I've gotten to a place where, you know, Stephanie can tell you, we are at the minimum of what we're comfortable with, and I'm already anxious about what we're looking at for next year.
Charles, I saw a comment on social media yesterday, and and thank you, Stephanie helped me out with it too. Just to clear the air, there's not a 10% or 9 point something reduction in special education in the Board of Education budget, right? Because I think there was a misconception that somehow the Board of Ed was cutting the special education budget, but that's not correct.
No, there's a significant increase, very significant increase in special education. The reduction was to what our Director of Student Services had brought as her original request. Included in that original request was a placeholder for the potential of an additional outplaced student. We reduced that. What we have budgeted now is only for what we know we have now. Now that's a risk, right? The risk there is part of what's put us in a deficit position this year is that we budgeted for 17 outplaced students. We now have, at one point this year, we had 24. Now we're at 21. That's all it takes, is 7, it doesn't sound like a lot, but 7 students who need that level of support has put us in this very difficult position that we're in. So what Dawn was suggesting was that, hey, let's build a little bit of a hedge. You know, let's put some money there to hedge against the prospect of that. But we removed that right away. That's the reduction that we made. The reduction we made were to her original request. What you have in front of you, there is a significant increase, but that reflects current needs.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's a big misconception, because I'm getting people coming up to me saying the same thing. It was a reduction, it was a cut. No, it was, you're here, you want to be here,
Right.
You guys negotiate with each other. You can't be here, this is what you settle on. So I think the way you portray it and the way it's said is not right, it's not correct. Because it's like saying, oh, I would have had $1,000 if I won the lottery ticket. You didn't have anything because it wasn't there.
Well, I can be clear. There is about a $900,000 increase over this year in the special education request.
Right.
Yeah. That is the truth. It's about 30%.
Yeah, it's about 30, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to get just so people know that, I mean, there's a cost that, you know, the Board of
Right.
Education, you know, and we do, I think you guys do a good job, you know, at it too. So I don't want people to think that the town's somehow cutting special education.
That's not accurate. If that perception's out there, it's not accurate.
I have another question for you. How much is in your maintenance budget for this?
No, not.
Yeah.
Trustee
both numbers, repairs and maintenance and facilities, because you have them separated, correct?
Yeah, so repairs and maintenance, we're down 30,000 at 285, 475. We spent 260 last year. And then facilities as a whole. Purchase services is up at about 18,000, and that's just contractual increases on everything.
Right.
There's a new Niagara software maintenance contract that was up that we have to add in for 24-25. Maintenance, supplies, up about 10,000 in supplies.
And what was the,
Their proposed request was 99,200. Last year was 88,700. Equipment. Equipment, 9450 for this year, because everything in there is just facilities. Bob had a request of about 19,000. We cut it back to 9450. And that's up to him to decide what he wants to purchase with that. But I know there is need for multiple things around the schools.
right. The reason I'm asking is because we took a tour of, I'm on the land building usage committee. We took a tour of Gildersleeve and the Biz a couple Saturdays ago, and some of the comments I was hearing from people on the committee as they're walking through the schools is that this is general housekeeping. And there's even some people that were on social media and actually sent us emails, and some of the things in our emails they were saying was there's stained ceiling tiles, there's missing ceiling tiles, there's different things with the school. And I wonder, is it because you don't have enough money, or you're taking that money as you're getting towards the end of the year and you're reallocating it to other needs? Because you have a building that is owned by the town, you guys use, and then when you're done with it, it comes back to the town. And I just have a hard time understanding why we're not maintaining the buildings. And I'm not putting it on Bob, who's been there for a year and a half, 2 years, or 100% onto you, Charles, but I just don't understand why we can't keep up with our buildings and where this fell short and what we're ever gonna do to get out of this hole.
I think a lot of it is, it's the behind-the-scenes things with all the old boilers and furnaces, and we're spending.
Peeling wallpaper isn't a behind-the-scenes thing.
No, I'm saying we're spending all of our money on trying to fix boilers
Right.
and furnaces.
But
Yeah, so let me, I'll address Bob Shea, Director of Facilities. So I'll address your point. You took a tour and you mentioned ceiling tiles in specific. Happens every day. Your roofs leak. We spent $50,000 repairing holes rather than funding $400,000 projects. So the days that you went in for the tour, it rained that week. Ceiling tiles fell from leaks. We hired a contractor to fix the leaks. If you went to the same location today, they're probably new and back up. It's an ongoing process for ceiling tiles in every single school. This weekend it rained. You'll go back and do a tour of both facilities. You'll see new tiles.
are we having this
struggle every
in
year.
the high school and the middle
Absolutely.
school also?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So if I was to give you a rundown of our contractor that does roof repairs, they've been here every 3 weeks for the entire budget season. For new leaks, existing leaks, stuff that we're trying to manage throughout. My budget line item for roof repairs is already doubled this year. Is expended. We've already expended double what I suggested. So it is an ongoing process. We contracted painting out. We did it all ourselves last year. We only have so many employees to paint, and we can only paint certain areas that are within our reach, without, our lift reach. So we've done a lot of work there, but yeah,
paying, we're trying to focus on spending the money that I have in the facility right now that we know is gonna sit, and doing what we can for emergency repairs with the money that's available. But, I mean, you have to look at those numbers. You can go back 4 or 5 years ago, you're at 450, you're at 282 now. So we're doing what we can to manage a budget with a 3% increase, where we're straight lining our numbers at a 12% increase for contractual as well as insurance, so we deficit ourselves because of that. But we have to meet your numbers. We have to meet the taxpayers' numbers. It's difficult, to say the least. It's extremely difficult every day to try to make HVAC repairs, roof repairs, do our general maintenance. Our custodians work night and day to do general maintenance, but we just lost a carpenter. We're cutting back. That's an individual that went out and did that work. So your director now is on the roof doing HVAC repairs, doing stuff on Fridays that I'm more than willing to do, but we're filling all those voids to make that stuff done. Listen, I have one goal in this position, is to keep the schools open every day, and it's a task. When you lose boilers in the winter, when you're moving kids around to get heat, new boilers, they fail. It's just, it's the components, it's the controls. We're making changes on lighting. We have a $300,000 cost to change our lighting software over that lights our school at the secondary complex. It's a Windows 95 based system. I'm not willing to really do that any longer. I'm just going to a conventional timer system. We're starting to do that with our budget. We have to. We lost the lights in the parking lot of the high school, middle school complex. Do I have a choice to change wallpaper or put the lights on the outside of high school? That's what I do, Sean.
I'm not blaming you, Bob.
No, I know, but that's what I have to do daily.
I'm trying to wrap
So-
my head around this, because it didn't happen yesterday. And
Oh,
you
no.
know it, and I know it.
Yeah. No, but that's what it is.
But it's disheartening to see this, and
Yeah.
you get people saying they moved to this area for our education.
And the education's there.
The education's there, but if I was from out of the area and I walked in and I went through some of our schools and some of the neighboring town
New
schools. But even we have fairly new schools, and we're having.
20 years old.
20 years old.
So if you walk through your 20-year-old schools, you're gonna see the same issues.
Right.
Because I talk to many directors throughout.
Right.
So, but you'll see that progression of the roofs and the ceiling tiles and the painting and stuff.
So when do we not wait to fix some of these things that were on sight lines? And myself and Selectman Hernandez and Selectman Hetrick were talking at one point of trying to come up with a way to allocate some capital to work on the secondary schools. And it came down to is, where does that money go if they run into a deficit towards the end of the year and you still have that line item?
Well, if it's the capital fund, it stays with the capital project. That's the good thing about a capital fund, to be able to leave the money there year after year, use it when it's available, build on it. So that's where I would say it needs to go for these type of projects, if you're gonna do that. We have chipped away at some of those items because we've had to. They've been kind of, if the sightlines showed it needed to be fixed in 1 to 3 years, well, guess what? It failed in 2, so it was right on target. We've made some of those changes, but we've used Fund 11, which we've been able to use some of the money that's been granted to us through grants with COVID and things to make those improvements. If we didn't have those, it would have been here, looking for that extra money.
But your Fund 11 is.
Yeah, we're starting to chip away at that, because I'm just have so many emergency repairs each and every month. Yeah, you're talking valve work. I lost 2 heat pumps. If I showed you the picture that I'm using a traffic cone as a siphon to, until we can get into our April vacation to do a $30,000 job, so I can make sure that I can heat the secondary school. So we do our best. Trust me, we do a lot of work, and we're trying to find ways to do it. We buy a lot of equipment ourselves now and only pay for the installation from the professionals. So we're trying to gather there. But, you've funded capital projects. We've used that Fund 11 as assisted, but it's hard. You know, you look at our capital budget now, it's where do you go? We know that we're limited on capital funding. We've seen it for years, trust me, been part of it for 20, on capital for 8. So I know the difficulty with a long-range budget. So we try to do what we can. So we selected, which was difficult, we had $2.9 million request in capital, which you didn't see. So we came down to 1.5, 52% of that was the possibility of getting money back. We tried to go after capital improvements that we can get some money back, hoping that maybe that would be a flavor for that, HVAC repairs and stuff. But here's where we are.
So the reality is, and the true reality is, when people are on this and they want and want and want, we need to raise our mill rate 2, 3, 4 mills, but then they don't want.
Right, we know that.
You know, it's.
It's
we
low
just
taxes,
have-
but more services.
Right.
Yeah. It's hard. So we play. I do my best to play that. I'm very happy with what we're doing as far as progress, that I see making repairs necessary to keep the schools open. But yeah, cosmetic stuff and things like that, that's tough. That's the general operational budget. Capital items are the big tickets, but it takes away. Takes away. If there's no capital, I have to use my operational budget. Tennis courts. It's all operational. We're struggling with that now. Yeah, I mean, just the freeze, my overall freeze is emergency repairs now. So it's very difficult for me to go and even repair damage that's caused on a daily basis from usage. It's hard to I have to wait. I have a bunch of things that I'm gonna wait for the new budget to cycle in to buy those products to make those repairs. Nothing that is earth-shattering, but it's that type of stuff. Hey, needs $5,000 worth of ceiling tiles. Well, guess what? We're not getting them now.
So I think when we had that discussion, I think it was around President's Day when you sent me that video.
Oh, yeah.
And that
The
was,
weekend.
you were going to be doing some valve replacement, I think you
Yeah.
said, or shut-off valves. Was that done then, or is that what you're gonna do in April?
So our plan in April is this, the 20 years ago, it was, I don't know if it was a cost savings or not, but all I can say is that was probably the worst engineering decision ever made. There's no way to isolate any of my heating units in the classrooms up at the secondary school. So if a heating unit fails for me, I have to drain 1,200 gallons of glycol out of the system, shut the place down for a day and a half, and make a simple repair that probably would have cost about $100. So I said enough of that. I had too many of those failures, too many cold classrooms in the wintertime, just couldn't deal with it anymore. So we found money in Fund 11, and I've come up with a plan to come in and replace, put 90 different isolation valves in all our classrooms so that I can actually work on a unit for 10 or 15 minutes to get it running, where I can isolate it, even if I have to take the unit out, it needs to be replaced, they're 20 years old, or if I just need to replace the valve that doesn't open or close properly to get the heat. Most of it's that's the case. So we're gonna do that in April. I need the school for a week, I have to shut it down. Hopefully it's warm enough. So that's that plan. But since then, I'll be adding 2 isolation valves to the utility room so I can isolate that from the school and work on boilers without draining them down and losing heat in the facility. And as well, the 2 heat pumps that we lost really need to be rebuilt, and they need new valves. So the rebuilding of a heat pump's pretty easy if you're just gonna rebuild the bearing and the shaft's not worn. But when the valves don't work, to be able to isolate it, to repair it, 1,200 gallons of fluid, shut the school down for 2 days. So we're gonna hopefully get around that corner and have a much better winter next
So
year.
what's the estimated cost of replacing those valves?
Well, that whole valve system and the new valves is probably about 45,000 total, all that work. Your valves are 5,000 or 6,000. They're the triple duty valves. They're big, 6-inch. So we've made some good progress on that end, and I'm thankful, very thankful for Fund 11 funding that was funded before I started with some additional funding. But, you know, this is a tough year. It's a tough year. So we're trying. Got some old schools. And you got some newer schools.
Highlights the importance of the other work being done.
What's that?
So that highlights the importance of the other work that's being done.
Yeah. Old schools in an old town.
Yeah, trying to, depending on, which direction we go, I'm trying to make sure that we're putting money towards good things that are gonna last, that are gonna be here. So I'm trying to, not put as much money in areas that we can get by that may not be here in 3 years, and just focus on the most important. With that said, they're safe, they're secure, and they're warm. Besides that, if I'm missing a half-foot section of, paint or whatever, but it's a lot of ceiling tiles, you're absolutely right. Yeah, probably another 50 ceiling tiles after this rain this weekend.
And don't forget, the amount of rain we've gotten over the past 18 months is historic.
No, I know.
Let's just get real.
Nothing we've ever seen in years past.
Yeah. I'm only making repairs as we go, the best I can. I get to a certain point where I'm probably gonna have to just wait until July.
Job's Pond is
I'm
at
not
the
dripping
highest
on the
level
kids.
since
Making
1984.
ceiling tiles.
Seriously.
To answer your question, because you had mentioned about, are you taking from this budget to
Right.
fund the other? We're taking from every budget right now to fund our
Frozen
deficit,
completely, yeah.
or else we'd be back at $400,000.
What are we at, what are we at now?
290. It's going down. I got another PR close tomorrow, so we'll see. So, you know what I mean, we're everywhere, everyone's suffering to the paper comment, we can't buy paper.
Yeah, and I do want to mention that this is the second year of freeze. We froze last year too.
No, I remember that.
So this is.
I'm even hearing my mom saying, how come I can't have paper? So.
I'm bartering with them, I said, trade with our school or something.
That's right.
Well, I had heard that one of the new programs puts all the books online, and the teachers end up printing out the lessons for the kids, and now they don't have the paper to print it out. So, I mean, that's bare bones.
It's rough.
Yeah, so, with that said, whatever you can do, capital investment's a good one. I mean, I'm a fan of capital if it's funded properly because it stays there. And you can maneuver, and if you save money on a line item, you can come here and try to move it into another line item that exists to make more improvements, so. But it's hard, I know it's difficult to fund.
Thank you, everyone.
Any other questions for anyone while they're here? It's good?
I got a question for you, Ryan.
Well, I guess you guys are all set.
Thank you, Bob.
And this is.
Shots fired.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
So the Board of Education budget is going to increase the mill rate 1.03.
Only if people pass it.
Only if people pass it, that's correct. Can you explain to everyone here, everyone online, what 1.03 means in a dollar value per $100,000 assessment value of your home? What does it equate to?
Well, I mean.
You don't have to give me the 0.3, make it 1, simple.
The value of a mill is how much the town has to raise in taxes per $1,000 of assessment. So, I guess what.
So at $100,000, at a mill rate of 33.274 is $332.
So, yeah, so you're asking what somebody's taxes are going up 3.11% is what is.
I'm going to ask you to put a dollar amount to it.
Okay.
Per $100,000 assessment.
For $100,000? All right, times 0.03327. So $100,000 would have been, last year, would have been taxed at a total of $3,327. And this year, it would be $3,430. So $3,430 minus 3,327, so it would be $103. So per 100,000 of assessment this year.
So less than $10 a month.
12,000.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
So that's the low end, so if we're talking on the high end, say, about the medium is about $250,000 assessment for a house in Portland,
It's
probably.
about $250 a year.
About $250.
$250 a year.
Correct.
And for that much money, the town of Portland citizens don't get any increase of services. They don't get any services that are maybe more beneficial in any way, like improvements. This is strictly going to the Board of Ed, is what you're telling me.
Well, that's,
right?
I will say, as Jim pointed out, I mean, our expenses have gone up, but we've been fortunate to have revenue that
But
is
I'm
also.
saying the increase to the mill rate is directly affected by the Board of Ed, not the general government budget.
In this
Well,
budget.
I was gonna say, I would actually say that it's still a combination. You've got a 3.89% increase in general government expenditures, right? So, and
But
you're
that
looking
didn't
at
affect the mill rate, Jim.
Well, it all, right, it all and it works in combination.
But
You
we
know,
base everything on the mill rate.
It's still-
Your mortgage is based on your mill rate.
Understood, but I mean, you can't have almost a 4% increase in the expenditures of general government, right? And you got 5% on the Board of Ed. I think the fact is that when you look at the two together, now the Board of Ed plays roughly, roughly 62% roll versus 38 general government. So it is a blended rate that causes it. The mill rate itself, for us to be where we are, I think is really, we're very fortunate, right? We've seen growth in the grand list, and we've seen, what was the other item I was looking at? We've seen the bonding costs going down. I get more concerned when I look at this budget and I look at where our Board of Ed is. I'm already looking at this current budget is going to be basically reducing multiple teachers, multiple sections. I think they're basically looking at 7 positions already. Those are things that will have an impact. So I do worry about what the impact would be on the student experience if we try to cut that further. As much as I don't, 5% is not a great number. But
I'm still stuck on what are the taxpayers paying. I'm not stuck on what the teachers are getting cut right now. I'm saying there's going to be to a $250,000 home assessment.
Yep.
Or, yeah, $250,000.
$250
Will be a $250 increase in your taxes.
Yep.
That's possible for this year if it gets approved. Now we're talking about maybe increasing the mill rate after the bonding issue next year, after the referendum. That could go up another 2 mil. We don't know yet. We don't know what the numbers are, possibly. Now, then we're going to talk in another couple of years, we need our new sewer, we need new bonding for the sewer system, sewer lines, the water lines. Now we just increased, we're at 250, 500, 700, 1,000. In the next 2-3 years, people could be paying $1,000 extra in taxes. I'm saying we got to stop the bleeding, the hemorrhaging right now. And what I'm saying is, this is unacceptable, be a 5% on the Board of Ed side. And where do we get that money? I don't want to cut teachers. I don't want to cut technology. I have a 10-year-old daughter in the school system. I know how important it is to have teachers, small classrooms, and funding. My problem is we have too much overhead in the Board of Ed. We have 5 buildings, some buildings with only 2 grades in them. That is unheard of. We got to get rid of a building. Get rid of overhead. We don't need an extra principal. It's ridiculous that we have a principal serving 2 grades. Most kids I know that have principals, they serve K through 4, K through 3, K through whatever. We got K through 2, we got 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8, and then the high school. That is way too many buildings. We've been talking about kicking a can down the road about getting rid of a building. Why aren't we doing it this year? I don't understand that. There's way too much overhead in here. If you want to know where to cut money, get rid of the administrative people. Get rid of the building costs.
I think that's why
Not
why the work that's going into the consolidations of the school is so
Well,
important.
we can do that today.
Right.
We can get rid of a school today. Like, come September, we can have a mothballed school.
I just want to point out that if you get rid of a school today, then it goes on to the town, today, and then we would have to adjust our budget, so.
Well, that's, hey,
But it would be
listen,
less
we
than
can,
we
we
use
can
to keep school.
make it
Less
more
than what
efficient
we're
by the
doing
town than
now.
apparently
Just
the school board.
Well,
So that's where my problem is. I'm not trying to cut teachers, I'm not trying to cut technology, I'm not trying to do any of that. It's the overhead, it's the administrative. We don't need a principal for every school, especially the 2 grades in 10 classrooms? We can combine, we can have a principal do multiple schools. They're not that far away from each other. It could be done. But nobody's explored that yet. And I'm saying we gotta get rid of a building. And we're gonna, down the road, we're doing it anyways. Why don't we start now?
We could have done a building 3-4 years ago.
What I'm saying,
But
all we do
no-
is kick the can down the road and we just keep pushing it off. And now, I know everyone's waiting for this next vote, but why don't we start it now? I mean, I don't care what school it is, it could be the Biz, it could be Gildersleeve, it could be, hell, close down Valley View, let's fix the roof. If the roof is so unsafe that it's been leaking for 20-something years, why are we even there? Put the kids in a safe environment that doesn't leak every day. Like, we have way too many buildings, and I'm just saying we should be thinking about closing one this year. And I'm not saying close Valley View, this is just a suggestion, because we gotta do repairs anyways, regardless of what passes on referendum. If it doesn't pass where the mega school is gonna happen, we gotta go to a capital plan. And we start with Valley View, we fix that, and then we move the kids from Gildersleeve down there. We divvy it up, and then when we're all said and done, we figure out what to do with the last school.
That's the plan if the referendum passes anyways, is consolidate so one building is empty.
Well, let's do it now. Let's start consolidating now. Mothball it for a year. I don't know. So, well, all right, so my suggestion would be right now, because everybody loves me and I make the cuts and I'm the bad guy, I wouldn't give them more than a 3% increase. But I know that's not gonna happen, so if you guys are happy, call the question as it sits and then vote on it, because we're not gonna chop $30,000 away. That's not gonna do anything right now.
No.
Unless we're doing significant cuts. Talking about cutting $20,000, $30,000 makes no sense to me.
No.
Do it, a significant cut, and close the school.
Or don't.
Or call the question right now, and then I'll be done
Get
with
us
it.
out of here.
That's my vote. Go, Michael. I know you're dying to speak.
Look, I want to say something. So, I think we all understand the frustration about that, but one of the ways I'm looking at this is, and we've all listened to the meetings, we've all been there for Board of Ed. I don't know where else we're gonna cut. We're already losing some people on that end as well. 5% is a lot, but guess what? Our budget for police went up, 5.7%. And we're saying the teachers, I mean, who's more important, right? They're both important. So if the budgets went up, I believe the police budget is important and needed. I believe that the ones that did the Board of Education budget cut as far as they could. And yes, I'd love to close the school, but also there's costs with that. If we mothball the school, what are the costs to do that?
Not
I
as
don't
much
know.
as it costs to operate it.
Right.
Right, yeah, well, what, moving the students around, any other costs? How about
Couple
contracts with the
U-Haul trucks.
teachers? You know, buyouts with the teacher, whatever, I don't know all the cost of that.
Alls I know is this is
All I
something
know
that's
is it's a
been talked.
savings. I don't know the cost offhand, but there's a
Right.
savings to it. And as you heard me say, I wasn't touching any of the teachers. I'm saying go administrative.
Right.
And facility. That's it.
So as a board, the Board of Selectmen, we only, have a say on the funding of the dollar amount. We cannot tell the Board of Education
What to do.
What to do.
Right.
But I will say, as we all are aware, we have been exploring those buildings and we're all in agreement. I think everyone that's looked at it understands that, running the number of schools that we are currently, based on the size of the student population, it does make sense to look at alternative options, which I do believe, the Board of Education is done, and as Sean alluded to, there's currently a facilities building usage committee that's evaluating what would be done with Gildersleeve and Brownstone. So I do think it's important that if we do close any schools, as the voters showed on that survey that we sent out, they want to know what we're going to do with them. And I think it's important to know that prior to just closing it up and mothballing a potential building. And we're there, we're getting close. Sean will tell you, it's not an easy committee to be on, so I thank everybody who's serving on it, but they are doing a very good job. And we actually have a tour Thursday with a gentleman from Attlebrook to look at Gildersleeve.
I'm
So,
gonna miss that. I gotta work. I wanted to be there though.
so. Are you making a suggestion?
I'm saying, I'm asking anyone who wants to call the question to settle the budget as it is, as it sits, or not.
Well, I don't think we call the question today. We actually we'll vote on the budget at our next regular Board of Selectmen meeting, which is next Wednesday, April 3rd. But, so today is deliberations where we go through it and we make any changes and modifications. So if the board is done with changes and modifications, then we would vote on that at our April 3rd meeting to send it to our annual town meeting, and then subsequently our annual town referendum. So that's the next process in the budget. But we also have a meeting that is scheduled tomorrow for budget deliberations. If the board is currently satisfied with the state of the budget, then we would cancel tomorrow night's meeting.
I make a motion, we cancel tomorrow night's meeting.
Okay, the motion's been made.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor of canceling tomorrow night's meeting?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? So, okay, so now, are we done?
Yes.
Are you done?
Yes.
I think, yeah, I think with the major deliberations, yeah.
Tom's not done.
Should, do you wanna stay there, or do you wanna come up and?
If he comes back up there.
Computer, okay, I'll repeat what you're saying.
So on page 137.
Page 137.
I just think of how we need to increase tennis courts, what's in the capital plan.
Oh, that's a good, yeah.
Because it's not over anymore.
So because the tennis courts are currently beyond repair at the moment,
I would move it up a year.
move it up,
A year.
which line
So
item?
on the line item, it's page 137.
High school, middle
Tennis
school.
courts.
Tennis courts.
Third down.
Yep, move it up.
To
In the
25,
second-
26.
In the second year, I put 575,000.
Right.
And in the third, in the
Tennis
third year, it's
courts.
575,000.
So 575,000 in the fiscal year 2025 to 2026, and then 575,000 in fiscal year 2026 to 2027. That would be what would fully fund the tennis court replacement.
It would be over $1
$1
million.
million for
To replace
asphalt.
asphalt tennis courts.
Tennis courts,
Bob is
even
good.
concrete.
Clay.
Yeah. We're not Wimbledon here. God, come on. I'll get Giuseppe in there, we'll put some
So,
concrete in.
the tennis courts became an issue as soon as whatever snow we had, but it wasn't really more of the snow. It was the 55 degrees to 17 degrees.
To 55.
60 degrees.
The
to
freezing
30
thaw.
degrees, yeah. So we have some substantial cracking, and it became a safety issue when we were out inspecting in late March, or I'm sorry, late February, early March. And we were concerned about the cracks that are present in the play areas, not as much around the fencing and stuff, those have been there. So we've made numerous repairs. 5 years ago, we made repairs. Some of those areas have cracked beyond the membrane repairs that they use. So I got some estimates on just repairs that we're looking. My main focus is to try to get the team to practice. I'm not too worried about matches. You really need all 6 courts. 2 of them are pretty bad. I didn't look at those down the backside. So I just want to get 4 courts so that the students are able to, the team is able to practice every day. If we have to transport them, which we looked at, it's very costly to practice every day out of town. With that said, we haven't found a facility because there's many tennis courts that are out of service around us for the same type of reason. So we're in the ballpark trying to figure out how to make some repairs, hopefully in the next few weeks, so we can salvage at least the season as far as practice. Obviously, the matches that were scheduled for home looks like they'll have to go away unless we deem it safe enough to do, which would be very hopeful that we can do. But it also, this surface would allow the public to play, you know. But I also looked at what it's gonna be to replace these courts, because they're gonna need to be replaced. And without doing any core bores like I did for the track, I would guarantee you that the surface under that tennis court is the same and the issues that we're having with the track.
Probably
Because it
put in
wasn't
by- at the same
compacted
time
properly.
By the same company.
Right, right. So I looked at 2 different companies. They both came out and evaluated the area while they were evaluating the cracks as well as the tennis courts. And if you keep the fence up, it's $750. And the system that I'm recommending is the same as the track for longevity, it's post-tension. That's expensive because you're paying for longevity. If you were to just mill it and pave it again, you can certainly do that, and that's gonna take a few $100,000 off the project for sure. But you're in the range, you know, with the existing fence and working around it, which could be issues and difficulty getting in and out, $750. Removing the fence and doing a post-tension complete system is about $1 million. Yep.
Hey, Bob, what's the
Versus probably about 600,000.
what's the longevity difference between the two?
Oh, it's
The
huge.
two methods for redoing the
Yeah,
surface?
your asphalt is anywhere between 15 and 20 years. You're hopefully milling and using that as a sub-base, using the product they already paid for, milling it, pound it back into the, so I'm pretty sure the sub-base will be much more secure than it is now. But you're still gonna have that asphalt shrinking and cracking. The issue with the post-tension, as we talked about with the track, is it stabilizes the base. It ends almost like a bridge deck. It's built very similar to that. And then if you had to replace the surface of it, it's just removing the surface and replacing just the surface on that bed. So the longevity of the track could be up to 50 years versus 15 to 20. So it's all based on money. But yes, it's not just an asphalt track, that number. If we wanted to do that, it would be less, for sure.
So both quotes
But it's
were
saving money for
post-tension?
both, yeah, so, the company that gave us an idea, currently did our track work, gave us the cheaper price. And a very reputable company that came out to look at the cracks at the tennis court gave us a little higher price. And they're looking for future savings, so they're trying to put a little money into it, but, yeah, trust my, you know, I see these numbers too, and it's just amazing to see the price of making big repairs like that now.
I don't even think like this should be a conversation right now. Like, we just heard about failing air handlers, boilers, leaking roofs.
Right.
Isn't this like way down the ladder?
It is.
Like, this
But-
conversation shouldn't even be brought up.
Right, but the repairs for the team now are my game for that.
I know,
So-
and there's also rain coming down on kids' heads, so like,
No.
we gotta look at something like that. No rain.
It's not getting, kids aren't getting, that's the
Not yet.
thing.
It's at
Kids
that
are not
point.
getting wet by rain. We got
Well-
hallway issues and chimney issues that are leaking, and we have random ceiling tiles that get wet.
Kids are
Jesus.
cold. Boilers are failing,
Yeah.
kids are cold, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. long.
Tennis kids, they can wait.
Yeah, we're making arrangements, the athletic department's making great arrangements for them, so. Yeah, for new, down the road.
Yeah.
Repairs,
Couple years.
we gotta do those.
Once we
Once we
bond
fix the
out
schools,
yeah,
yeah.
we figure out the schools.
So the folder's on the deck. So when conversations come from the public, which they do to us, we have some numbers to say, yeah, that's what it would be.
Yeah. Real numbers this
Yeah,
time.
just real numbers. Yeah.
Instead of the track.
Not requests, but
Got
real numbers.
bamboozled.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
Our
Tom, do you have any
initial
other
track
changes
numbers.
before we?
Yeah, 5 foot.
Yeah.
wanted to clarify on page 140.
No,
Page
it's the last
140.
page. Second last page.
There is a, so the decision was to increase excavator attachment by 20,000.
Correct.
And then the next year, the change was to make it 30,000.
I don't, oh, the 30,000 for the mulch head, was that what we were doing?
Zero the next year, so I believe that is the change that that would occur if you did it the way you're doing it.
Right.
On which line item were you
It's
talking?
Highway Division, second line.
Excavator attachments, mulcher, 35. Yes, that is, you're correct. So the first year would be 20,000, and then the second year would be 30,000?
And the third year would be,
Zero in the third year. That's correct.
okay. On the line of 252, replace dump body, that would go to 72,000, and year 2 would go to 0.
Yep.
Yes.
Correct.
Mhm.
Correct.
Replace pickup would go to 0, and the second year would go to 92.
Replace pickup would
Yes.
go to 0, and then 92,000
Yep.
in the second year.
There's one potential other concern that the fire chief had asked about. This is on the fire department. Fiscal '24, we put in $40,000 for replacement of an outboard loader. There's a consideration is on the thermal imaging cameras to make that be 0, and you increase, replace outboard motors by the 13,000.
So just so, because I'm not sure this is getting picked up on the camera, on the microphone, but the consideration is because of a previous capital project to replace the outboard motors on the fire department motorboat that's come in over the previously allocated amount. The request would be to remove the thermal imaging cameras that were budgeted in the capital improvement plan this year of 13,000 and allocate that to the motor replacement for the fire boat vehicle.
Yeah, what's called replace outboard motor on M7.
So that would be an even $13,000 trade.
Yes.
And just a question for the chief. Was our outboard motor, was that what we recently used at the rescue that took place at the quarry? Was that boat involved? No, it wasn't involved? Okay. Okay. I was just curious to see if it was recently in action. Okay.
It gets hibernated in the winter.
All right, so, okay. All right, does anybody have a problem with that?
As long as it's,
Is
as long as
it
fire's
okay
good,
with
it's
the
fine
fire?
with me.
Yeah, all right, so we'll make that change then, Tom. You okay with that? You guys are okay?
Yeah, we'll just put the 13,000 into the next year.
So the 13,000 for the thermal imaging cameras will go in for the capital for next year, which isn't currently funded, but we put it in. Tom, do you have any other changes or modifications or questions? All right, we'll go down the line. Jim, are you good?
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how to do the stipends, but that'll be my homework tonight.
Okay, all right. John?
Good.
Good?
I'm good.
Sean?
Good.
Bobby?
Good.
Good. Mike? All right. So, as previously was voted upon, there is no budget meeting deliberation tomorrow evening. The next Board of Selectmen meeting will be a week from tomorrow on April 3rd at 7 p.m. here in the Buck Foreman room, where we will be voting on the budget, sending that to our annual town meeting. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second.
All right, I think Mike got it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Have a good night, everyone. And thank you to everyone for
Yeah.
attending online and in person. Thank you all. And to the administrators as well.
Recording stopped.